Exercise 3 from the Energy Dynamic Model. Aim: working out a feel score. Put your learning from the last few chapters into practice. See if you can pick a couple of simple situations and work out if you score a plus or minus feel score. Do this by first of all gathering up the facts as you did in exercise 1. Then write down who you are and go through each of the 10 power needs. See if you have a yes or no for each one. If you score a no for any of the animal power needs, the overall feel score will be a minus, regardless of what the other power needs measure. If you score a yes for the animal power needs and some no scores from the human and personality ones, then you will score an overall yes or plus feel score. This exercise allows you to start to understand your situations as you do when you are operating within a positive feeler dynamic. You will also be able to identify which situations are scoring a minus feel score. Keep a note of this, as we are now going to have a look at what we can do with this information. Hi there. This is a very important point when you now start to actually analyse your feel scores for yourself by using your brain as we used to naturally when we were cavemen. Now, I'm going to go through this to explain in more detail. When you're looking at your animal power needs, this is your health, your emotional and physical safety and your love and care. What now happens is it's now applied to third parties as well. So this is now applied to people who you are connected to as well, because we are animals, we are cavemen, we are human beings, we are designed to be like this, we have been made to be like this. So we need to apply this not just to ourselves now, like we did in exercise 1, but we need to apply this to the people that we are connected to, even though they might not be with us at this moment, but we are connected to them at this moment. That's very important. So when I do this analysis on myself, I will consider my 3 children. Even though they are not in a room with me as I'm doing this video, I will still factor that in because I am connected to them. The things and situations that will be covered in this sort of group will be neighbours, because they are physically near to you, your community to a degree, your friends, your children and your partners and your family. And the closer they are to you, the more you need to consider it. So it's not an immediately obvious thing because there is no one in this room with me, but I need to consider those elements when I'm looking at my power needs. And if we want to go back to the chapter 13, who are you? When it defines who you are, the third point, your environment, your situation, is absolutely fundamental to this feel score calculation with your animal power needs. My health might be okay, my love and care might be fine, and my emotional physical safety might be fine, but if my people are connected to me, if it's not the case for them, then that will make me feel bad. We have been designed to be like this, as to operate as human beings, and if we do not care or we are not connected to the people around us, we can't function as a human being. And this is the point at which it starts to become a little bit different to how we might see the world normally. But as animals, this is how we experience our lives. We don't experience our lives as an on our own person in a bubble. We experience our lives as animals, and we do feel what others feel if they are close to us, whether it be physically or related through a blood connection or a physical closeness like a neighbour. So when you're looking at the first 3 power needs, your actual situation at the moment obviously is important, because if my situation at the moment, I'm being hit over the head with a stick, then obviously I'm going to feel bad because my animal power needs immediately are being affected. But even if my 3 power needs, animal power needs, are okay at the moment, I then need to consider, who am I connected to? Are their power needs okay at the moment? Animal ones. Once we've worked that out, the definition of who you are really remains as point number 4, is who are you? And as I explained in the chapter, that includes things like your IQ, your talents, your learning style, what you prefer, and what you can physically do, as well as your imagination. This is when you start to think, okay, well, looking at my 3 power needs, that's what I've decided on their score for those. Now, what about who am I as a more sort of focused look at who I am. Now, if I'm at work, I will use this analysis at work. So if I prefer to be outdoors, and I'm working outdoors in a garden centre, then that's going to make me feel good. So that's a plus. If I can understand what's going on around me, I don't know, if I'm in a meeting in an office, if I can understand that, then that will give me a plus. If I'm in an education situation and my ability to understand the knowledge that I'm being given from an IQ point of view is sort of okay, then that will give me a plus. So it just gives you a little bit of a tick, 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 looking at your situation. It's sort of, what are you doing? What actually are you doing at that moment? Are you at school? Are you at work? Are you watching television? What are you actually doing? And given what you're actually doing, what's your feel score, given the who you are of the IQ, learning style, etc. So there's 2 layers to this, really. There's the underground animal power needs grumbling along all the time. Doesn't really matter what you're doing, they're always there because they're your connection to the people that you're connected to and the situation. And then the second layer is, given that, if that's okay, given that, is what I'm doing in line with who I am on a more personal level of my IQ, learning style and preferences. What you'll find is that if your animal power needs are a minus, whatever you're doing will be difficult, because you'll be gathering up very large minuses all the time, irrespective of what you're doing. So if I'm in pain, or if one of my children is in pain, whatever I'm doing, I will be feeling bad. Now, we talk about this later in the book, and sometimes we need to accept that and think, well, that's what's making me feel bad. I just need to accept that, and I need to work on keeping my power up, because if I'm having these large minus scores on a regular basis, I need to raise my own bar. Otherwise, they're going to engulf me, and I'm going to start to be depressed and start to want to do other things in order to compensate for that. So it's not a case of what can I do to change them, because you can't change them as such, because they're out of your control, because it's to do with other people, and you cannot control other people, as we will discuss later on. But what can you do about it if you're receiving large minus feels from other people because of your connection to them? You need to accept that, and you need to raise your own bar so you can hold it, okay? But the other element, the other layer of this, is when it comes to you as a personal human being with your IQ, your learning style and everything else. If your animal power needs are okay, as in it's not bad, then is there anything about what you're doing, is that a plus? Is that a good thing for you to do, given your IQ, given your learning style, given all this other things listed in point 4? Given that, is that making you feel good? And again, you'll just use it to see, and you might be surprised, especially with children. I mean, one reason why children might not do very well at school is because of their learning style, and a child might learn better by doing something rather than sitting in a classroom full of 30 children. And if that's not addressed, then what will happen is they won't be able to show who they are. They will start to feel bad. Then because they feel bad, they will go into their mind dynamic. And in their mind dynamic, they might not be able to succeed in their mind dynamic because no one approves of them. And because no one approves of them, they then become, their mind starts to turn against them. And then their behaviour becomes really bad, because then they get very, very angry, and then they get very anxious. And it just sort of goes on and on. But it could have been avoided if someone had looked at their learning style and thought, well, actually, if I took this child out of school, put them in an environment where their learning style was appreciated and valued, and that child could learn, then that child will feel so much better because they can understand it, they can start to express who they are. So it's really, really important. I mean, it's all really important, actually. Your animal power needs are fundamental, and then the other power needs is really important if we want to become the best we can be, given who we are as regards point 4, which is our sort of own personal package of IQs and learning styles and talents. So see what comes out of the analysis of that with your life, and see if you can start with looking at your job if you work, start with looking at your role in a family if you don't work, and see how that marries to yourself. See if it's a good match. And then sort of write that down, because we're going to start to discuss now what to do with all this information. Right? So if you have minus power needs and they're to do with you need to raise your own bar. If they're to do with the situation you're in and the people you're connected with, you need to raise your bar. Simple as that. Otherwise it's going to overcome you. If your animal needs are okay and it's the other 3 types of power needs that are a little bit wobbly, we need to identify where they are wobbly, what they are wobbling about, what element of who you are they wobbly about. Is it your learning style? Is it your IQ? Is it what you prefer? Is what you prefer not around you at all ever? Is what you're doing not in line with that aspect of who you are? So see if you can identify anything like that. So you'll have 3 scenarios here. You'll either have a minus animal power needs and minus the other three power needs, right? Which is one situation. You might have plus power needs and minus the other 3 type of power needs, which is something which can be probably sorted out just by looking at where do you get those minuses from. Is it your job? Is it your family role? And having a good look at that. Or you'll get a situation where your power needs are a plus, and the rest of the animal power needs, the animal power needs are a plus, and the rest of the power needs are a plus. And that in that situation, then you will be feeling good all the time, which is marvellous.